The stars had never seemed so close. Captain Jiwan stood on the bridge of the horizon, humanity's first ship capable of traveling faster than light. 3 months ago, they had left Earth. Now they floated near Alpha Centauri, 4 light-years from home. The crew celebrated their achievement with quiet pride. They had done what generations before them could only dream about. "Captain, we're picking up something on sensors," said Lieutenant Minho from his station. His voice carried a note of concern that made everyone stop what they were doing. Jiwan walked to his side and looked at the display. 3 ships were approaching. They were unlike anything humans had ever built. Their hulls seemed to shimmer with colors that shouldn't exist. They moved without any visible engines or exhaust. "Are they hostile?" Jiwan asked. "Unknown. They're not targeting us. They're just coming closer." Within an hour, the alien ships had matched speed with the horizon. A communication signal came through. The computers struggled to decode it, but eventually a message appeared on the screens. It was in perfect English. "Greetings, humans. We are representatives of the Galactic Council. Please prepare to receive our delegation." The bridge fell silent. First contact. The moment humanity had wondered about for centuries. Jiwan took a deep breath and responded. "This is Captain Jiwan of Earth vessel the Horizon. You are welcome aboard." The aliens transported directly onto the bridge. There were 3 of them. The leader looked like a giant insect, standing 7 feet tall with 4 arms and compound eyes that seemed to see everything at once. The other 2 were different species entirely. One resembled a floating jellyfish made of light. The other was covered in scales and had too many fingers on each hand. "I am Counselor Vexthara," the insect-like alien said. Its voice came from a device on its chest, translating its actual speech into English. "We have been watching your species. You have finally achieved light-speed travel. This means you are ready to join galactic civilization." "That's wonderful," Jiwan said carefully. "We're eager to learn about other species." "Of course," Vexthara replied. "First, you must review and accept the integration protocols. Every species must follow these rules to join the Council." One of the other aliens held up a device. It projected a holographic document into the air. The text was impossibly small and went on for what seemed like miles. "This is 10,000 pages," Lieutenant Minho whispered to the captain. "We will give you time to review," Vexthara said.
"Take as long as you need."
"A few days should be sufficient." The aliens left the ship as mysteriously as they had arrived. The crew immediately began studying the document. What they found made them increasingly uncomfortable. Ambassador Hyunwoo arrived from Earth 2 days later on a fast courier ship. He was a former military strategist who had become humanity's chief diplomat. He was known for his ability to see through deception and his unwillingness to accept bad deals. He spent 18 hours reading the integration protocols. When he finally finished, his face was dark with anger. "This isn't an invitation," he told Captain Jiwan and the senior staff. "It's a demand for surrender." "What do you mean?" Jiwan asked. Hyunwoo pulled up sections of the document on the main display. "According to this, we must reduce our military to 10% of current size. We must pay tribute to the Council every year. We must give them access to all our resources. We must accept Council governors who will oversee our government. We must limit our technology development to what they approve. We cannot explore space without their permission." "That's insane," said Commander Minho, who had joined them from Earth's Defense Initiative. "They're asking us to give up our independence." "Exactly," Hyunwoo said. "And if we refuse, they threaten economic sanctions and military action. They make it sound reasonable, but it's designed to keep us weak and under their control." "What do we do?" Jiwan asked. "We tell them no," Hyunwoo said simply. The next day, Counselor Vexthara returned with the delegation. They appeared on the bridge again, clearly expecting good news. "Have you reviewed the integration protocols?" Vexthara asked. "Yes," Ambassador Hyunwoo said. He stood straight and tall, meeting the aliens' compound eyes without fear. "Our answer is no." The bridge fell silent again. But this time, the silence came from the aliens. Vexthara's head tilted to one side in what might have been confusion. "I do not understand," the counselor said. "You refuse integration?" "That's correct," Hyunwoo replied. "We will not reduce our military. We will not pay tribute. We will not accept governors. We will not limit our growth or exploration. We appreciate your offer, but we decline." "This is not an offer," Vexthara said, and now there was an edge to the translated voice. This is how new species join the galactic community. Every species accepts these terms. Then we will be the first who doesn't, Hyunwoo said calmly. The jellyfish-like alien made a sound like wind chimes being shaken. The scaled one's fingers twitched rapidly. Vexthara was silent for a long moment. You do not understand what you are refusing, the counselor finally said. The council has maintained peace in the galaxy for 12,000 years. We have systems, procedures, rules that work. You cannot simply ignore them. We're not ignoring them, Hyunwoo said. We're rejecting them. There's a difference. If you do not join the council, you will be alone, Vexthara warned. No species will trade with you. No one will share technology with you. You will be isolated. Then we'll be isolated, Commander Minho said, stepping forward. But we'll be free. Vexthara's forearms moved in what might have been frustration. You are making a mistake. The council has ways of dealing with stubborn species. Sanctions, blockades, if necessary, military intervention. Are you threatening us? Captain Jiwon asked, her hand moving subtly toward a control panel. I am warning you, Vexthara said. Accept the protocols. Join civilization, or face the consequences of standing alone. Ambassador Hyunwoo took a step forward. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but firm. Counselor Vexthara, humanity has spent thousands of years fighting for freedom. We've suffered through wars, tyranny, and oppression. We've died in millions to build societies where people govern themselves. Do you really think we'll give that up because you show up and demand it? You are young and foolish, Vexthara said. Maybe, Hyunwoo agreed. But we're young and foolish on our own terms. Not yours. The alien delegation left without another word. Their ships departed at high speed, leaving the horizon alone in the darkness of space. Captain Jiwon looked at Ambassador Hyunwoo. They're going to come back. With more than words. I know, Hyunwoo said. Get this ship home. We need to prepare. As the horizon began its journey back to Earth, its sensors detected something concerning. Dozens of alien ships were taking up positions around human space. The council was already moving. Commander Minho sent a message ahead to Earth's defense initiative. Begin fortification of the solar system. This is not a drill. We're going to war. Back on Earth, President Yoonji received the news with grim determination. She immediately called an emergency session of the world government. They want us to kneel, she told the assembled leaders. I say we stand. Who's with me? Every hand went up. Humanity had spoken. The answer was no, and they would defend that answer with everything they had. The council chambers on Apex Prime had never been so chaotic. 47 species sent their representatives to argue, debate, and shout at each other. 3 months had passed since humanity rejected the integration protocols. 3 months of confusion, anger, and growing concern. Counselor Vexthara stood at the central podium trying to maintain order. The insectoid being's forearms gestured for silence, but few paid attention. This is unprecedented, shouted a representative from the Kelvin Unity, a species of gas-based beings. No one refuses integration, no one. They're primitives, said another counselor, a being made of living crystal. They barely understand the basics of galactic travel. How dare they refuse us? High Chancellor Quelm raised one webbed hand. The ancient amphibian was over 3,000 years old and had led the council for 6 centuries. When he spoke, everyone listened. The question is not about their audacity, Quelm said, his voice carrying the weight of ages. The question is what we do about it. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed the Sol system, humanity's home. Red dots marked dozens of new structures around the system's edge. They're building defenses, reported strategic analyst Corvin, a reptilian species known for military expertise. Defense stations, weapons platforms, shield generators. They're fortifying their entire star system. With what technology? Someone asked. Theirs, Corvin replied. Primitive but effective. And they're learning fast. Very fast. Admiral Subin's face appeared on another screen. She was giving a speech to human forces back in Sol system. The translation came through clearly. We will not surrender our freedom, she said to her assembled fleet. Every station you build, every weapon you place, every shield you raise is a statement. We belong to ourselves. The council chamber fell quiet as they watched. There was something in the human admiral's voice that unsettled many of them. Determination. Absolute refusal to bend. They're insane, Vexthara said. Our fleet could crush them in days. Perhaps, High Chancellor Quelm said thoughtfully. But should we? That question sparked another wave of arguments. The Council had not faced real resistance in 8,000 years. The last species that refused integration had been destroyed so thoroughly that few records remained. The Council preferred not to discuss it, but everyone remembered the lesson. Refuse the Council and face extinction. We should send another diplomatic mission, suggested Councillor Bren, a peaceful species that preferred negotiation. Perhaps we were too harsh in our initial terms. We could offer modifications. Modifications? Vexithera's compound eyes flashed with irritation. The protocols have worked for 12 millennia. We cannot change them for one stubborn species. But if we don't, Bren argued, what then? War genocide? Is that who we are? Deep in the Council archives, researcher Taeyong worked quietly. He was human, though no one here knew it. He had been placed undercover months before first contact. When humanity first detected alien signals, his job was simple: learn everything about the Council and send it home. What he found disturbed him greatly. Hidden in classified files were records of the rebellion. 6,000 years ago, 5 species had banded together and refused integration. They demanded the right to govern themselves. They refused to pay tribute. They rejected Council authority. The Council's response had been total. Fleets were sent. Worlds were burned. Entire species were wiped from existence. The records were buried, hidden from new species who might ask uncomfortable questions. Taeyong encrypted the data and sent it through hidden channels back to Earth. President Unji needed to know what they were really facing. Back in the Council chambers, the debate raged on. We give them one more chance, High Chancellor Quelm finally decided. Send another delegation. Offer them modified terms. Reduced military restrictions. Lower tribute. More autonomy. That sets a dangerous precedent, Vexithera warned. So does genocide, Bren replied quietly. The second diplomatic mission arrived at Sol System 2 weeks later. This time they came to Earth directly. Ambassador Hyunwoo met them in orbit aboard a human space station. The delegation was smaller this time. Just Councillor Vexithera and 2 aides. They presented their new offer. We have reconsidered, Vexithera said. The Council is willing to negotiate. You may keep 30% of your military. Tribute is reduced by half. You may have limited autonomy in internal affairs. Ambassador Hyunwoo listened politely. When Vexithera finished, he was quiet for a moment. No, he said simply. You didn't even consider it, Vexithera said, frustration clear in the translated voice. I don't need to, Hyunwoo replied. You're still asking us to give up our sovereignty. You're still demanding we answer to you. The amount doesn't matter. The principle does. Why? Vexithera asked, and for the first time there seemed to be genuine curiosity in the question. Why is this so important to you? The Council provides peace, stability, protection. We maintain order across thousands of worlds. What is so valuable about independence that you would risk everything for it? Hyunwoo looked out the viewport at Earth spinning below. Because we tried the alternative. We've had empires, dictators, tyrants. We've had people tell us they knew what was best for us, that we should trust them to lead us, and every time it ended in suffering. We learned that freedom isn't just valuable. It's necessary. It's who we are. Sentiment, Vexithera said dismissively. Emotion. These things do not matter in galactic politics. Then maybe galactic politics is broken, Hyunwoo said. The diplomatic mission returned to Apex Prime with news of another failure. The Council was running out of patience, but things were happening that the Council didn't know about. Human scout ships were slipping past Council monitors. They found uninhabited systems and started building colonies, secret bases in asteroid fields, hidden stations in nebulas. Scientist Doyen worked day and night in Earth's orbital laboratories. He had studied the alien technology from every probe and sensor the Council had sent. Humanity was centuries behind in some areas, but Doyun was brilliant. He found ways to adapt, to learn, to catch up. We can't match their shields, he told Admiral Subin during a briefing. But we don't need to. We can build kinetic weapons that bypass shields entirely. Old-fashioned mass drivers accelerated to relativistic speeds. Their shields are designed for energy weapons. How long until we have them? Subin asked. 6 months, Doyen said. Maybe less if I can get more resources. You'll have whatever you need, Subin promised. Meanwhile, human colony ships were spreading quietly through space. They avoided Council territory. They didn't announce themselves. They just went carrying seeds of humanity to new worlds. Commander Wu Jin coordinated the defense efforts. He was a strategic genius who had studied every war in human history. He knew humanity couldn't win a straight fight against the Council. But they didn't need to win. They needed to survive, and make the cost of defeating them too high. We fight like our ancestors did, he told his officers. When the enemy is stronger, you don't meet them head on. You make them bleed. You make them question if victory is worth the price. The Council sent a third diplomatic mission, this time with even better terms. 40% military, no tribute for the first decade. Near total internal autonomy. Ambassador Hyunwoo didn't even let them land. The answer is no, he transmitted from the surface. It will always be no. Stop asking. A fourth mission came, then a fifth. Each time with better offers. Each time humanity refused. The Council was baffled. In their 12,000-year history, they had never encountered a species like this. Species that were defeated accepted integration. Species that were weak accepted it to gain protection. Species that were reasonable accepted it for the benefits of trade and technology. Humans accepted nothing. They're not reasonable, Vexthera told the Council. They're fanatics. Dangerous fanatics. They're brave, Councillor Bren said quietly. Foolish, perhaps, but brave. High Chancellor Quelm studied the reports from all 5 missions. He read the human responses. He watched recordings of their leaders, and slowly a realization came to him. They're not going to submit, he said to his closest advisors. Ever, no matter what we offer. No matter what we threaten. They would rather die. Then perhaps we should accommodate them, Vexithara said darkly. The war faction is growing stronger, another advisor warned. Many counselors want military action. They say humanity is making us look weak. Quelm sighed, a sound like water flowing over rocks. Then I fear we are approaching a point of no return. If we cannot bring humanity into the Council peacefully, we must decide. Do we let them remain independent, setting a precedent that could destroy our authority, or do we destroy them, proving that defiance leads to extinction? There must be another way, Bren pleaded. If there is, Quelm said, we're running out of time to find it. In Sol system, Admiral Subin received the intelligence from Taeyong. She read about the rebellion, about the 5 species, about how the Council had exterminated them completely. She called an emergency meeting with President Yunji and the other leaders. They've done this before, she told them, her face grim. They know how to end species that refuse to kneel, and they're going to do it to us. President Yunji looked at the data. Then she looked at each leader in turn. Then we make them regret it, she said simply. Ready the fleet. 6 months after first contact, the situation went from tense to dangerous. Council scout ships appeared at the edge of Sol system. They didn't ask for permission. They didn't announce their presence. They simply entered human space as if they owned it. Admiral Subin watched them on the tactical display. 3 small ships, barely armed. They were scanning Earth's defenses, cataloging everything humanity had built. Orders, Admiral? Asked her tactical officer. Subin didn't hesitate. Destroy them. Human defense stations opened fire. The alien ships tried to flee, but kinetic rounds traveling at incredible speeds caught them before they could jump to light speed. In seconds, all 3 were reduced to debris. The message was clear. Human space belonged to humans. On Apex Prime, the Council received news of the destroyed scouts with shock and outrage. They attacked us, Vexthera shouted in the chamber. Without warning, without provocation, they destroyed Council vessels. The vessels were in their territory, Councillor Bren pointed out. Without permission. Council ships don't need permission. Another representative yelled. High Chancellor Quelm raised his hand for silence. This changes things. Humanity has crossed a line. They have shown they will use violence against the Council. What did you expect? Bren asked. We've been threatening them for months. They're preparing for war because they know we're going to bring it to them. Then perhaps we should, Vexithara said coldly. The war faction has enough votes. We can mobilize a peacekeeping fleet. 200 ships should be more than sufficient to remind humanity of their place. The vote was called. It passed with a narrow majority. The Council would send a military fleet to intimidate humanity into submission. Not to destroy them, Quelm insisted. Just to show them the futility of resistance. But there were those in the Council who wanted more than intimidation. Researcher Jeho worked alone in the deep archives. He was human, like Taeyong, but his mission was different. While Taeyong gathered intelligence on current operations, Jae-ho dug through history, old records, forgotten files, the things the council didn't want anyone to see. He found what he was looking for in a vault that hadn't been opened in 4,000 years. The rebellion. The records were incomplete, many sections deleted or corrupted, but enough remained to tell the story. 5 species had formed an alliance. They called themselves the Free Peoples. They refused integration. They demanded the right to govern themselves. The council's first response was diplomatic, then economic sanctions, then military pressure. The Free Peoples resisted all of it. They were strong together. They had resources, technology, and determination. So the council changed tactics. They labeled the Free Peoples as terrorists, as threats to galactic peace. They accused them of atrocities they didn't commit. They turned the other council species against them. And then the council did the unthinkable. They destroyed 5 homeworlds. Billions of beings died. The Free Peoples were erased from existence so completely that most current council members didn't even know they had existed. The integration protocols were created after that, not to help new species join civilization, but to ensure no species would ever be strong enough to resist again. Jae-ho copied everything he found. He sent it through encrypted channels to Earth, but he did something else too. He sent it to other species in the council, the younger civilizations, the ones who still remembered what it was like to be independent. The file spread like wildfire through the galactic network. Within days, every species in the council had access to it. The secret was out. On Earth, President Yoonji read the files with growing horror. She called an emergency meeting with her advisors. "They're going to do to us what they did to the Free Peoples," General Wu Jin said. He was a tall man with sharp eyes and a mind that never stopped calculating. "We need to change our strategy." "How?" Subin asked. "We're outnumbered by thousands to 1. "We expose them," Wu Jin said. Jae-ho already started the process within the council. "But we need to broadcast this to the entire galaxy, every species, every world. Let everyone see what the council really is." Ambassador Hyunwoo nodded slowly. "A government that rules by fear and genocide. That's a powerful message. It's also dangerous," Yoonji warned. "If we do this, there's no going back. The council will have to destroy us to maintain their authority." "They were always going to destroy us," Wu Jin said. "At least this way we take their reputation with us." The broadcast went out on every frequency. Humanity used every communication system they had built. The message was simple and devastating. Ambassador Hyunwoo appeared on screens across the galaxy. Behind him were the files Jae-ho had found. Images of destroyed worlds. Records of the genocide. "The Council's own classified documents. People of the galaxy," Hyunwoo began. "I am Ambassador Hyunwoo of Earth. We are a young species. We have only just reached the stars. When we met the Galactic Council, we hoped to find friends. Instead, we found tyrants." He let the documents speak for themselves. Images of the 5 homeworlds before and after. Burning. Dead. Silent. "The Council calls this peace," Hyunwoo continued. "They call it order, but it's built on the bones of billions who dared to be free. 6,000 years ago, 5 species refused to surrender their independence. The Council erased them from existence. Now they want us to submit to the same fate." He paused, looking directly at the camera. "We refuse. We will not pay tribute to tyrants. We will not accept governors. We will not surrender our freedom. And if the Council comes for us, the galaxy will watch. You will all see what your so-called peacekeepers really are." The broadcast ended. The galaxy erupted in chaos. On Apex Prime, High Chancellor Quelm watched the broadcast with ancient eyes. He knew this was a disaster. Species across the Council were demanding answers. Protests broke out on dozens of worlds. The carefully maintained image of the Council as benevolent protectors was shattered. "Damage control," Vexthara hissed. "We need to explain to justify." "How do you justify genocide?" Councillor Bren asked quietly. "I didn't know. I suspect most of us didn't know. But now we do." The council chambers became a battlefield of words. Species that had accepted integration began to question why. Species that had been intimidated into joining demanded explanations. The unity that had held for 12,000 years began to crack. But the war faction didn't care about politics. They cared about power, and humanity had challenged that power. "We send the fleet," Vexthara declared. "Not 200 ships. 2,000. We crush them completely. We make an example that will last another 6,000 years. You'll prove everything they said about us, Bren protested. No, Vexithera said coldly. We'll prove that defiance has consequences. The fleet mobilized. 2,000 warships from across the Council. It was the largest military force assembled in 5 millennia. They began the journey to Sol System. On Earth, engineer Yuna worked frantically in the weapons labs. She was young but brilliant. She understood things about physics that no human had before. The kinetic weapons were ready, mass drivers that could punch through alien shields, but Yuna knew they needed more. We can't fight them ship to ship, she told Admiral Subin. We need force multipliers, ways to make every shot count. She showed Subin her latest designs, mines that would float dormant in space, automated defense drones, weapons platforms that could operate without crew. If the humans had to retreat, these weapons would keep fighting. How long to build them? Subin asked. We have 3 weeks before their fleet arrives, Yuna said. I can have 500 platforms ready. Maybe more if I skip sleep. Get help, Subin ordered. Work in shifts. We need everything you can give us. Pilot Hana led the first combat patrol outside the solar system. She commanded a squadron of 12 fighters. Small, fast ships designed for hit-and-run attacks. They encountered a Council scout squadron, 5 ships doing reconnaissance ahead of the main fleet. Remember your training, Hana said to her pilots. Don't engage directly. Hit and fade. They attacked from the cover of an asteroid field. Kinetic rounds tore through the first Council ship before it could react. The others tried to return fire, but the human fighters were too fast, too nimble. They darted between asteroids, using the rocks for cover. In 3 minutes, all 5 Council ships were destroyed. Hana's squadron had 1 damaged fighter. No losses, back to base, Hana ordered. We've stirred the hornet's nest. Let's not be here when they arrive. Word of the skirmish reached both sides. Admiral Subin was pleased. The Council was shocked. 5 ships lost to primitive human fighters. It should have been impossible. General Wu Jin studied the results. This is how we win. We don't fight their way. We fight ours. Fast, lethal, unpredictable. Commander Hyan led the special operations teams. His job was sabotage. Council supply lines stretched across light years. Communication relays needed to coordinate that massive fleet. All of it was vulnerable. Human teams slipped behind enemy lines. They attacked supply depots, destroyed relay stations, made the Council fight blind and hungry. The Council fleet slowed its advance. They had to protect their supply lines. They had to establish secure communications. Everything took longer than planned. On Apex Prime, Vexithera received reports of the delays with growing frustration. How are they doing this? They're primitives. They're resourceful, Admiral Corvin said grudgingly. And they understand warfare. The Council fleet hung at the edge of Sol System like a dark cloud. 2,000 warships, their hulls gleaming with power. They had come to force humanity's surrender. They expected it would take days at most. Admiral Subin watched them from her flagship's bridge. Around her, the human defense fleet waited. 300 ships. Most were smaller than the Council vessels. Less advanced. Less powerful. But they were crewed by people who had everything to lose. They're broadcasting, her communications officer reported. The message was from Admiral Vexithul, a different counselor than the diplomat they had met before. This one was military through and through. Humans of Earth, the message began. You are surrounded. You are outnumbered. You cannot win this fight. Surrender now. Accept integration. Your deaths are unnecessary. Subin didn't respond immediately. She looked at her crew. Young faces. Old faces. People who had volunteered to stand between Earth and destruction. Send our response, she told the communications officer. On every frequency, humanity's answer went out. It was just 2 words, come try. The Council fleet advanced. They moved in perfect formation, a wall of ships that seemed unstoppable. They expected the humans to meet them head-on. That was how galactic warfare worked. 2 fleets clash. The stronger one wins, but the human fleet didn't advance. They pulled back, deeper into Sol System, past Jupiter, past the asteroid belt, drawing the Council fleet into prepared ground. They're retreating, Admiral Vexthul said with satisfaction. As expected, pursue, show no mercy. The Council fleet followed. They didn't see the mines floating dormant in the dark. They didn't detect the automated defense platforms powered down to avoid sensors. They came in confident and unwary. The trap sprung, thousands of mines activated at once. They accelerated toward the Council ships at tremendous speed. The first wave of the fleet lost 50 ships in seconds. Explosions lit up the dark like deadly flowers. Defense platforms powered up and opened fire. Kinetic rounds from unexpected angles. The Council shields held, but the impacts disrupted their formation. Then the human fleet attacked. Not head-on. From the sides. From above and below. Small groups of ships hitting hard and retreating fast. What are they doing? Vexthul demanded. This isn't proper fleet combat. They're not fighting fair, his tactical officer replied. They're fighting to win. Pilot Hana led her squadron in a dive through the Council formation. Her fighters were too small and fast for the enemy targeting systems. They fired kinetic rounds into engine sections and weapon ports, weak points that Engineer Yuna had identified. Hit and fade, Hana shouted to her pilots. Don't give them a target. Council ships tried to respond, but their weapons were designed for ship-to-ship combat. Fighting small, fast fighters was like swatting flies with a sledgehammer. Commander Hyon's teams did their work in the chaos. They had infiltrated several Council ships before the battle. Now they activated sabotage programs. Ships suddenly lost power. Weapon systems failed. One Council cruiser collided with another when its navigation went dark. The battle spread across millions of kilometers. It wasn't clean or organized. It was messy and brutal and nothing like the Council expected. Admiral Subin coordinated everything from her flagship. She had studied every war in human history. She knew humanity couldn't win a traditional battle, so she made it untraditional. Neptune Group execute, she ordered. A Council squadron chased a group of human ships toward Neptune. The humans seemed to be fleeing. The Council ships pressed their advantage. They didn't see the trap until it was too late. Human ships had been hiding in Neptune's shadow. They used the planet's gravity to slingshot themselves at incredible speed into the pursuing Council squadron. The collision was catastrophic. Both sides lost ships, but the Council lost more. Unacceptable, Vexthul raged. They're savages. Barbarians. They're effective, his tactical officer said quietly. The battle raged for 3 days. The Council had more ships, better weapons, stronger shields, but humanity had home advantage. They knew every rock in the asteroid belt, every moon, every place to hide an ambush. They lost ships, many ships, brave crews who died buying time for others. Admiral Subin felt each loss like a knife to her heart, but she couldn't stop, couldn't retreat. Behind Earth's lines, civilian transports were evacuating non-combatants to the hidden colonies. Children, elderly, anyone who couldn't fight. President Yunji had given the order. If Earth fell, humanity would survive somewhere. By the end of the 3rd day, the Council had lost 300 ships. An incredible number, unthinkable in any previous campaign. But they still had 1,700 left. Humanity had lost half their fleet, 150 ships, and the defenses were wearing thin. We can't keep this up, General Wujin told Subin during a brief lull. They're learning our tactics, adapting. The next wave will be worse. I know, Subin said. But we've done something they didn't think possible. We've hurt them, really hurt them. Across the galaxy, other species watched the battle. The transmissions had been broadcast everywhere. 17 different species saw humans fighting against impossible odds, saw them refusing to surrender, saw the mighty Council fleet struggling against a supposedly primitive species. Something stirred in those species, a feeling that had been buried under thousands of years of submission. Hope. On the world of Taros, a young leader named Lixandra watched the broadcasts with growing determination. Her people had been Council members for 2,000 years. They paid tribute, followed rules, accepted governors. She looked at her advisors. What if we didn't?
Didn't what?
One asked, what if we refused? Like the humans? The Council would destroy us, the advisor said. You saw what happened to the free peoples. But the humans are fighting back, Lixandra said. And they're winning. Not defeating the Council, but surviving, proving it's possible. Similar conversations happened on a dozen worlds. The Council's worst nightmare was coming true. Humanity wasn't just fighting, they were inspiring. Back in Sol System, the 4th day began. The Council fleet had reorganized. They had learned from their mistakes. No more chasing small groups, no more getting separated. They would advance as a solid wall. Overwhelm humanity through sheer force, Admiral Vexthul addressed his fleet. Today we end this. No mercy, no restraint. Any human ship is a target. Any station. Any defense. Destroy them all. The Council fleet advanced. This time there were no tricks that could stop them. The mines were spent. The defense platforms destroyed. The human fleet was scattered and exhausted. They reached Mars orbit. Earth was visible in the distance, a blue jewel that the Council had come to claim. Prepare final defensive positions, Admiral Subin ordered. Her voice was calm, but everyone could hear the sadness in it. They had fought so hard, but it might not be enough. President Yunji stood on Earth's surface looking up at the sky. She could see the flashes of weapons fire, the death of ships and crews. Her people, her responsibility. She made a decision. She broadcast on all channels to every human ship and station, but also to the Council fleet. This is President Yunji of Earth. I have an offer for the Council. Stop your advance. Withdraw your fleet. Leave human space. If you do, we will do the same. No more attacks on Council territory. No more conflict. Just separation. You go your way. We go ours. Admiral Vexthal received the message with scorn. She thinks she can negotiate? After attacking us, after embarrassing the Council before the entire galaxy? No, we will accept nothing but total surrender. The Council fleet kept advancing. On Earth, Engineer Yuna stood in her laboratory. She had one last weapon, something she had kept secret even from Admiral Subin. It was dangerous, experimental. It might not even work, but they were out of options. Activate Project Breakpoint, she ordered her team. Deep in Earth's Pacific Ocean, a massive installation powered up. It had taken months to build in secret. Energy readings spiked. Space itself began to ripple. The Council fleet suddenly stopped advancing. Their sensors were going wild. What is that? Vexthal demanded. A wave of energy exploded outward from Earth. Not a weapon. Something else. It washed over the Council fleet. Ship systems went haywire. Navigation failed. Weapons powered down. Shields flickered. In the chaos, the human fleet attacked. One final desperate strike. They targeted the Council flagship. Kinetic rounds tore through its disrupted shields. The massive ship began to break apart. Admiral Vexthal barely escaped in a lifeboat. He watched his flagship die with disbelief. Retreat, he ordered what was left of his fleet. Fall back. Regroup. The Council fleet withdrew, not because they were defeated. They still outnumbered humanity, but because for the first time in thousands of years they were scared. Scared of an enemy that wouldn't die. Scared of technology they didn't understand. Scared of the cost of victory. As they fled, messages reached them from Apex Prime. Riots had broken out across Council worlds. 3 species had declared independence. The carefully maintained order was collapsing. Admiral Subin watched the Council retreat with exhausted relief. They had won, not the war, but the battle. They had survived. On her screen, a message appeared from Lixandra of Taros. You have inspired us. We are leaving the Council. Can we join you? Then another message, from a different species. Then another. Admiral Subin smiled through her tears. Humanity had set out to defend themselves. Instead, 2 years after humanity rejected the integration protocols, the galaxy was not the same. On Earth, Ambassador Hyunwoo stood before representatives from 23 different species. They had come to the Sol system not as conquerors or rulers, but as guests. As equals. Welcome to Earth, Hyunwoo said, his voice carried across the chamber by translation devices. You've traveled far to be here. Some of you crossed space controlled by the Council. Some of you left behind everything you knew. We honor your courage. The representatives looked around the simple chamber. No grand throne rooms, no displays of power, just a meeting room where equals could talk. Lixandra of Taros spoke first. Ambassador, our people have formally declared independence from the Council. We need help. They've cut off our trade, isolated our worlds. We're not warriors like humans. We don't know how to resist them. You don't need to fight like us, Hyunwoo replied. You need to fight like yourselves. Each species has strengths. We'll help you find yours. Over the next weeks, the foundation of something new took shape. Not an empire. Not a council that demanded submission. Something different. They called it the Free Systems Alliance. The principles were simple. No species ruled another. No tribute or taxes beyond what was needed for mutual defense. No governors or overseers. Each world governed itself. But they would stand together against threats, help each other with trade and technology, protect each other's freedom. It won't be perfect, President Yoonji told the assembled representatives. We'll disagree. We'll argue. But we'll do it as free beings, not subjects. That's worth the difficulty. One by one, species joined. Taros was first, then the Kelvin Unity, the Prism Worlds, the Singing Moons. Species that had been council members for thousands of years were leaving to join humanity's alliance. The council watched with growing alarm. On Apex Prime, High Chancellor Quelm faced the crisis of his long life. The council that had ruled for 12 millennia was fracturing. 23 species had left. Riots continued on dozens of worlds. Those who remained demanded reforms. We must stop this, Councillor Vexithera insisted. Send fleets to the breakaway worlds. Force them back, with what? Quelm asked wearily. Half our military refuses to fight. They saw what happened at Sol. They saw how many died. They're asking why we're fighting species that just want freedom. Because order requires it, Vexthara shouted. Because if we allow this, the entire council will collapse. Perhaps, Quelm said quietly. It should. The chamber fell silent. No one had expected the High Chancellor to say such words. We built the council on a lie, Quelm continued. We told ourselves we maintained peace, but we maintained control. We crushed anyone who questioned us. The humans exposed that truth. Now we must decide. Do we reform and survive, or remain rigid and collapse? The vote was close, but reform won. The integration protocols were rewritten. New species would no longer be forced to submit. Existing members could leave if they wished. The council would become what it claimed to be, a voluntary association for mutual benefit, not a dictatorship. But for 23 species, the reforms came too late. They had already found something better. Admiral Subin traveled to the former council worlds to help establish their defenses. She met with their military leaders and taught them human tactics, not because humanity wanted to control them, but because free worlds needed to be able to defend their freedom. You're sharing your technology? One admiral asked in surprise. Your weapons? Your strategies? Why? Because we're stronger together, Subin replied. And because freedom isn't something you hoard. It's something you spread. Scientist Doyen worked with researchers from a dozen different species. He shared human discoveries openly. In return, they shared theirs. Progress that would have taken centuries happened in months. Without the Council's restrictions on technology, innovation exploded. The Council kept us weak, one alien scientist told Doyen. They said it was for safety, but really, they just didn't want us strong enough to challenge them. Then let's get strong together, Doyen said with a smile. The Council tried diplomacy one more time. High Chancellor Quelm himself came to Earth. Ambassador Hyunwoo met him in orbit aboard a human station. The ancient being looked tired. Thousands of years of leadership had worn on him. I come to offer peace, Quelm said. The Council recognizes human sovereignty. We will not interfere with your alliance. We only ask that you stop encouraging our members to leave. We're not encouraging anyone, Hyunwoo replied. They're choosing freedom on their own. We just showed them it was possible. You've destroyed an order that lasted 12,000 years, Quelm said. But there was no anger in his voice, only sadness. We've exposed an order that was built on fear and genocide, Hyunwoo corrected gently. Maybe it's time for something better. Quelm was silent for a long moment. The Council will survive. Reformed, perhaps. Smaller, certainly. But we will endure. Good, Hyunwoo said, surprising the old being. The galaxy is big enough for different ways of living. The Council can exist. So can the Free Systems Alliance. So can independent worlds that join neither. What matters is choice. You're not what I expected, Quelm admitted. When you first refused integration, I thought you were foolish children. Stubborn and suicidal. And now? Now I think perhaps we were the foolish ones. We forgot that civilization isn't about control. It's about cooperation. You remembered that. Or maybe you never forgot. The meeting ended with a formal treaty. The Council recognized the Free Systems Alliance. They would not interfere with each other. Peace built not on submission but on mutual respect. As Quelm's ship left Earth orbit, Hyunwoo watched it go. Behind him, Captain Jiwon approached. Do you think it will last? She asked. The peace? Maybe, Hyunwoo said. Maybe not. But we've changed the conversation. It's not about submission anymore. It's about coexistence. That's something. The Free Systems Alliance grew, not through conquest or forced integration, but through example. Species saw what was possible and wanted it for themselves. Within 5 years, 40 different species had joined. Within 10, it rivaled the Council in size. But the Alliance remained true to its founding principles. No species ruled another. Decisions were made by consensus, not decree. It was messy and slow and frustrating. It was also free. Commander Minho, now an admiral himself, stood on the bridge of a new ship. It was crewed by humans, Tarosians, and Kelvin, 3 species working together as equals. Strange, isn't it? Said his Tarosian first officer. 5 years ago, I would have reported you to the Council for unauthorized activity. Now I serve beside you. Times change, Minho said. People change. What matters is what we do now. On Earth, President Yunji prepared to step down. Her term was ending. She had led humanity through first contact, war, and peace. Now someone else would take the burden. In her final address, she spoke to all of humanity and their allies. We set out to protect our freedom, she said. We succeeded beyond our dreams. But freedom isn't a destination. It's a journey. Every day we must choose it. Defend it, extend it to others. That's the responsibility we accepted when we said no to the Council. She paused, looking at the camera. To every human, every Tarosian, every being in the Free Systems Alliance, you are not subjects. You are not servants. You are free people. Never forget the price that was paid for that. Never take it for granted. In the years that followed, the galaxy settled into a new pattern. The Council existed, reformed and diminished, but still powerful. The Free Systems Alliance grew and thrived. Many worlds remained independent, joining neither side. It wasn't perfect. There were disputes, conflicts, growing pains as different species learned to work together as equals rather than rulers and subjects. But it was better. On the 10th anniversary of First Contact, Ambassador Hyunwoo and Admiral Subin stood together on Earth's surface. They looked up at the stars where humanity's ships now traveled freely, where other species lived without fear of Council retribution. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd said yes? Subin asked. If we'd accepted integration? Every day, Hyunwoo admitted. We'd be safe, protected, comfortable, but not free. No, not free. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Was it worth it? Subin finally asked. All the deaths, the war, the suffering. Hyunwoo thought of the thousands who had died defending Sol System, the crews who never came home, the families torn apart by war. Ask me again in 100 years, he said quietly. When we see what kind of galaxy we've built, when we see if freedom survives, then I'll know if it was worth it. But you think it was, Subin said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Hyunwoo said. I think it was. Because we chose. Win or lose, live or die, we chose. No one forced us. No one made the decision for us. That choice, that agency, that's what makes us human. It's what makes anyone free. Above them, a ship departed Earth. It carried diplomats to a new species that had just achieved light speed. The Free Systems Alliance was expanding, not through conquest, but through invitation, through showing others that there was an alternative to submission. The galaxy was changing. Slowly, painfully. But it was changing, and it had started with one word. One simple refusal. No, humanity had said no to submission. No to tiranne. No to control. And in doing so, they had said yes to something greater. Yes to freedom. Yes to independence.